Now, for more on this story, joining us today, we have with us Professor Kim Hyun-wook from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. It's good to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much.
So, following South Korea's presidential office revealing that President Moon received a letter from Kim Jong-un last week, it seems the U.S. President Donald Trump also has shown that he received a letter from Kim Jong-un as well. What do you make of this latest development?
I think Kim Jong-un is sending a very clear signal to President Trump about the possible continuations of the U.S.-North Korea relations. He recently had a New Year's speech, and I think in the New Year's speech there was some kinds of pressure on the United States. If the U.S. does not lift sanctions on North Korea would take another steps. Possibly, maybe will be compelled to take another step. I think that's the right translation into English. So I think after that New Year's speech of Kim Jong-un, in the United States, there were a lot of negative, opinions about, Kim Jong-un's speech. Okay, Kim Jong-un, I don't think they criticized that Kim Jong-un would not be willing to, denuclearize itself, just asking for the same demands on the United States, for example, lifting sanctions. So very skeptical views about the denuclearization of the North Korea has been in Washington, D.C. So I think after that kind of letter and also negative opinions, Kim Jong-un's letter, which he's trying to, deliver a very firm resolve of continuations of North Korea and the United States. I think that was the intention of this letter sent to President Trump.
President Trump, the manner in which he revealed that he received this letter, waving it about during his cabinet meeting, was quite perhaps a little bit startling as well. Although we didn't get to see the contents of the letter, he seemed to be willing to show that there was this letter in his hand. Do you think Trump was perhaps trying to send sort of message as well back by doing it this way as well?
I think this is a message both to the U.S. people and also to Kim Jong-un. I think first he's trying to focus on a lot of important achievements of the U.S.-North Korea relations. He mentioned that there has been no test and no war, possibly third World War, and also this is something that has not been for about 80 years, and he is not in hurry. So he clearly expressed his firm belief on the continuations of the relationship between North Korea and the United States. So I think this is kind of firm message to Kim Jong-un and other leaders that he is going to continue this kind of relationship with North Korea, possibly including the possible summit meeting in no distant future. And second is also the message to domestic people in the United States. This is a clearly good achievement that President Trump made. And also he will do the same thing, by doing this. He has done a lot of positive things. So I think this is something that he's trying to use, for domestic political purposes.
As I mentioned, the details of the letter haven't been revealed publicly. But what do you think was in the letter, considering Trump's very positive reaction?
I think Kim Jong-un definitely would have expressed his willingness to denuclearize itself. That has been also, contained in his New Year's speech. He first time by his own voice expressed that he is firmly, supporting the agreement that has been made in Singapore on June 12th between Kim Jong-un and President Trump about denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, a complete denuclearization. But I think in the letter, he would have clearly, repeated that message that he's firmly, continuing to denuclearize North Korea. Second one is I think he might have focused on the trust building between two leaders and two countries. He wants to meet and have a second summit meeting. So I don't think there would have been any response from the United States. The U.S. is continuously, demanding North Korea to denuclearize and then afterwards the sanctions can be lifted. But I don't think all that kind of details, I don't think that would have been contained in the letter.
Before we move on, I mean, this letter as well, Trump is very, very positive towards it. But as you mentioned earlier as well, that Kim Jong-un in his Newsday speech did fire a sort of warning saying that, unless the U.S. does take some sort of actions as well, North Korea might be forced to take a new path towards whatever that may mean. Do you think Trump and the Washington administration, or perhaps Trump, is putting that to the side for one now? Because at the moment he seems perfectly happy with what North Korea are saying to him on the surface.
I think, that's kind of a way that Kim Jong-un uses as pressure on President Trump in order to make the U.S. to lift the sanctions on North Korea. That's something that North Korea needs. But, definitely, U.S. Is having its own firm position that there should be, first step of denuclearization on North Korea's side, so that there will be initial, phase of sanction lifting by the United States. But I think now, President Trump and his staffs, wants to have a high-level, talk and deal before summit comes up. Because in order for summit, there should be some deals in the working level about denuclearization and sanction issues. So I don't think having said that, I don't think summit is easily possible unless there comes some kinds of working level deals. But President Trump doesn't need to say about that. He is focusing on the summit. And he's focusing and mentioning about the economic potential of North Korea. So I think he's giving a lot of potential incentive to President Kim Jong-un. Okay, this is good. I want to have a talk with you too. North Korea has a lot of economic potentials. So why don't you denuclearize and get sanctions lifted and come up for a summit? This is all the incentives that President Trump is delivering to Kim Jong-un.
So you don't think Trump's comments about saying he expects a second summit to happen and he said, a quote, a not too distant future, that's what he said. He says that, but do you think that's just him trying to encourage Kim Jong-un to come out? Or do you think an actual summit could happen at some point?
I don't think I can really be sure about which side Trump sticks to for now. I mean, he definitely wants to have a summit, because by having summit, he can use this as kind of a positive drive in domestic politics. Okay, things are going well. He's ready to denuclearize. We are having a good relationship between North Korea and the United States. All the kind of good signals to domestic people in the United States. But there should be some kinds of denuclearization by North Korea for the summit to come up. Because if there is no deals about denuclearization and no deals about some corresponding measures by the United States to North Korea, the summit is meaningless. After the summit, there will be much more criticism than before. Okay, he had a second summit, but what do they have? There's nothing. Okay, agreement came out, but it's an empty agreement. A lot of negative criticism would be posed on President Trump. So I think at least to have summit meeting, I think he needs to have some kinds of initial steps to denuclearize North Korea.
So you're saying that both sides need to make steps. You're saying North Korea needs to make steps towards denuclearization, and perhaps the U.S. needs to show corresponding measures as well, which the North Korea have asked for. Have you seen anything in the last few days that includes this letter from Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un's Newsday speech, perhaps even Kim Jong-un's letter to Moon Jae-in, that suggests there might be some sort of movement that shows either side is willing to make these steps towards a new summit as well?
In the New Year's speech of Kim Jong-un, there was no sentences about the, North Korea would move first, including denuclearization. What has been contained in the, New Year's speech was that, okay, North Korea has done so many things. North Korea already have, removed all the test sites and all that kind of things, and North Korea have not done 4 things about nuclear weapons, did not make nuclear weapons, did not test nuclear weapons, did not transfer nuclear weapons, and what is the last one? All the 4 things Kim Jong-un contained in this speech that North Korea has not done in the past 5, 6, 7 months after the Singapore summit. So it's now time for the United States to do something for North Korea, which means the sanction lifting. So I think the North Korea position has not changed. It's now time for the United States to do something for North Korea. But the U.S. position is that, okay, North Korea has not done anything about the existing nuclear weapons. So North Korea has to do some initial steps to denuclearize itself. Then possibly the U.S. can do some kinds of initial steps to lift the sanctions. So 2 different positions are still the same things. So I don't know how things would evolve in the future.
Perhaps this is where South Korea might have some sort of role to play here. For example, last year, when North Korea, Kim Jong-un made his New Year's Day speech in 2018, he talked about wanting to take part in the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And President Moon Jae-in and Seoul took that and really pushed it through to happen, which pretty much opened the doors for all these kind of new reconciliation efforts last year. Do you think there's anything South Korea and President Moon Jae-in can do now to perhaps have that same kind of momentum again?
What I can see through the New Year speech of Kim Jong-un is that he mentioned the Kumgang Mountain tourism and Kaesong, industrial complex, normalizing all these 2 things. In the summit meeting between Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un, I think last September, the Pyongyang agreement contains that if certain conditions are met, Kaesong and Kumgang Mountain tourism will be normalized. So all these 2 things will be normalized if international sanctions are lifted. But in the New Year speech, Kim Jong-un is asking South Korea to do all these things regardless of the international sanctions, which means that even though sanctions are not lifted, why don't you normalize these 2 things, Kumgangsan and Kaesong complex? So, which is definitely violation of UN sanctions. But we can be kind of flexible about these issues, even though these are not even though we don't focus on these 2 things, we can possibly think about some other agenda that would be giving some holds for the North-South, economic cooperations, and also at the same time not violate United Nations sanctions. So I think this kind of agenda finding is something we need, by which I think we can probably bring North Korea to denuclearization, but at the same time not violating United Nations sanctions.
Well, that's where we'll have to end it. Thank you for coming in today and sharing us your insights.
Thank you very much.